Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We're going to start first with a radar animation of the storms that went through parts of Nebraska last night, producing damaging straight-line winds and some hail. Those storms then eventually did line out in parts of Iowa, northern Missouri, going through the Kansas City area, and parts of Kansas as well. Meanwhile, to the north of them, a thunderstorm complex came out of northern Wisconsin, moved across Lake Michigan, and this morning spread through parts of lower Michigan, an area that has lately seen better precipitation. But come back to the storms farther to the south, and as I go back and forth, you'll see that they crossed over the Mississippi River and put down quite a bit heavy rainfall in through parts of central and northern Illinois. Now, where these storms ended up later in the day here was just here into this part of Indiana as I'm recording this late in the afternoon here. We also saw sea breeze convection, so storms coming in here to Florida, but all along the Gulf Coast. And the next feature we're going to watch, is going to be coming out of the Four Corners states, really up here toward Utah. Watch as I go back and forth. See the spin there? That's the low we're going to watch emerge this weekend. Now, we're going to keep a close eye on the severe weather threat in through this area tonight. And this is what we've got, looking out for those severe storms as we progress through the rest of this day. So this is where we're most concerned about storms happening in the near term. And then getting into Friday, it's going to be an elongated area right in through here where that boundary will sit. We're going to continue to see quite a few storms. Now, the forecast of these storms is extremely challenging because each new storm system that develops, remember, they have cloud scale interaction. And what that means is that the storm's own outflow boundaries and own downdrafts dictate what it's going to do, where it's going to go, and who's going to get the heavy rainfall. So even though I can show you high-resolution forecasts like this one from the NAM model, just remember something, that as these storms move through, here we are at about 5 o'clock this afternoon, that the model's ability to predict where this is going to go by tonight, bringing possibly another round of very heavy rainfall to where we saw it this morning, and watching the storms coming through this part of the Dakotas back into Wyoming, very, very dry region. You know, this is just what the models have in terms of their best prognosis given the initial conditions. And what it means is there's going to be a whole area in through here. Friday morning, we're going to watch for storms. And that low coming out of Utah, notice to the north of it, could get some scattered rain in parts of the driest sections of North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Nebraska as well. So playing through Friday afternoon and then into the evening, you can see where the boundary remains. And that's where we're going to be watching out for the strong to severe storms clear down to the panhandle of Texas, up into this part of Michigan. So this is just a forecast, a near-term forecast into Saturday morning, and then getting our way into Saturday midday and evening. So multiple rounds of storms hitting the same areas. And what's critical about this is that up to this point in June, it has been very, very dry in these areas. Now, this is the June 1 through June 24th total precipitation ranks by climate district. And what you saw was we were bringing in rainfall into places that desperately need it. But the bigger questions remain. Is this the kind of corrective rain that we would need to end longer-term drought stress, or does it buy us time? I believe the answer at this point is it buys time for some folks in the northern part of the and western part of the Corn Belt, and for others, it will go a long way to correct the long-standing problems. In this forecast, you will also notice that much of the Mid-South getting over into the Mid-Atlantic will be drier through the next week, giving them another week to kind of get rid of some of the excess water that we've had. But overall, this is going to go over wetter into week 2, and we'll see that in a few moments. I'm expecting a lot of change in this map, which looks at the top 16 inches of soil moisture. And the area that I'm expecting to see the most change in is right in through here. We're going to watch it carefully. Now, in the Red River Valley of the North, central parts of Minnesota, parts of, the Dakotas, there's going to be a bit of a model battle here. We're going to show you what's going on. But the good news is this is an area that has been very wet as of late, and we're going to be seeing better chances of drying down there. The setup in the atmospheric flow is quite amazing. There is a very large ridge that develops over the next 3 days that is sitting right here on top of British Columbia and Washington State. There's another ridge parked here. And the flow in between the two is where the boundary is going to sit, on which we're going to see a lot of thunderstorms in this area. But this ridge here is sending exceptional, like record-breaking heat. And I'm not talking about, the daily record. I'm talking about all-time record heat into parts of the Pacific Northwest. And I'll show you that in a few moments. Now, what's critical about analyzing this pattern is to look at the probabilities of events. And that's one of the benefits of running ensemble models, where we run them multiple times. The 51-member European ensemble, when you look at the probability over the next 7 days at getting an inch of rainfall, this is what you get. So you do notice that the heaviest quarter will be where that boundary stalls out here and gives us multiple chances of rain. It is drier in the mid-Atlantic, back through parts of Georgia and Alabama. See this region in through here? And it will be drier on a very sharp line right in through here to the north, where we don't expect the heavier rainfall to get. But I can also show you from here what's the probability of 2 inches, and that's what it looks like. And again, this is over the next 7 days. And here's the probability of 4 inches. Now, many of you have probably seen some of these forecasts where the individual model runs have been shared on social media, or you've seen them on your app and they're like, oh, you're going to get 15 inches of rain. That's using just raw model output, and that's a dangerous thing to do in these kind of situations. Yes, some storms will put down some heavy rainfall, but if you even look here at the probability of getting 8 inches of rainfall, now you notice that when we use the ensemble technique, those probabilities are extremely low. But this is something we need to pay close attention to. So let's talk about this. I want to show you first the forecast from the 12Z model from the European on where it currently has the heaviest rainfall. And that is right in through this corridor and through here. Now, what I did today was I wrote some new code to show you how much the run-to-run forecast for the next 7 days has changed. We call it dprog dt, prog meaning prognosis. And that's what you've got here. So when I get asked what are the model trends, this is what they are. The European model has shifted the heavier rain south and east. It's now here, whereas before it was there. Now, why this is critical is that Nebraska through Iowa, southern Wisconsin, this is an area that needs quite a bit of precipitation. The European has now shifted it, basically running from Springfield to Springfield, and then eventually here into southern Michigan, so Springfield, Missouri to Springfield, Illinois. Notice this. The European model has gotten wetter lately here in the Dakotas as well, and that's critical. But to show you, another way of looking at this, this is the European model's forecast on precipitation from the 12Z run compared to normal. So we're looking at anomalies now. So first was total, second was run-to-run difference, the third map here is a total difference, okay? We can see drier in through this region, Tennessee Valley, down through the deep south, getting over to mid-Atlantic. Where the stalled out boundary sits here, fed on just abundant amount of Gulf moisture, it's going to be very, very wet. But through the Canadian Prairie into Minnesota, we see less chances of being extremely wet. But the model did improve the rainfall back into parts of South Dakota and even into North Dakota. This also extends down here into this part of the Cotton Belt as well. Let's do the same thing with the GFS. This is the latest GFS 12Z 7-day forecast. And what I'm now going to show you is the change from the 0Z run. Now, notice that it is not, I guess I would say, not as well defined as what the European shift, there it is, that's the European shift from what was once wetter here to now wetter there. The GFS is a bit more sporadic in those changes. What I will be most careful to watch is if this does in fact trend drier, because this is an area where, as we saw earlier, we really need, in fact, let's go here. That's an area that is very, very dry. And it's not the only place. I'm just saying that's an area that I'm watching very carefully because it had been forecast to be quite wet. Now let's go from there, let's come back to this map and then take a look at the GFS 12Z forecast compared to normal over the next 7 days. And that's the cutout I didn't like to see in the trend. It had been wetter in Minnesota and South Dakota and northwest Iowa, and now it's shifted. It was consistent with what was going on here and consistent with the heavier rainfall in this pocket, but that was where it trended drier, same thing with the Canadian Prairie. Now, what I want to show you next is, can we just go back, let's go back to the European model week 1 12Z, and this is what I'm going to share with you. There's a high pressure cell here, and the flow is coming around it. The boundary stalls there. There's a big ridge over the west. I'm sorry, let's draw that again. A big ridge over the west, and the flow is turning like this. So what we end up getting is a very slow moving frontal boundary in this area. And to show you the hour by hour forecast of this is kind of fruitless at this point. It's just going to have several chances in through here of heavy rainfall. Okay, that's what we're going to be watching most carefully. Now from there, let me show you how the pattern evolves. This is the GFS ensemble from the 12Z run. So what I just pointed out to you was this big blocking ridge sets up over the weekend. We do get a sense of an omega block. Do you see that? That means there's more north-south movement in the flow of the jet stream than west to east. And blocking means it sticks around for a while. So this is Monday. Here's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday of next week. There's still a trough here and a broader ridge. But this is the day before the 4th of July. And what you notice is as we go past that, the models have been very consistent. I've shown you this now in my last 3 videos of taking this ridge and pushing it over toward the Aleutian Islands. And it seems to really take place after about July the 6th. And what it ends up doing is it pushes a ridge here, a ridge there, and a ridge there. Now that pattern tends to produce drier conditions in the prairie, drier conditions in the northern plains, and then downstream flow here that gives us thunderstorms in this area, and then open Gulf support for a lot of rainfall there. And that's why it doesn't matter what model you look at, they both show this pattern. Drier in through here, and on open Gulf moisture into this area, wet. What I'm concerned about is the line that breaks these up here, or is it actually a little bit farther to the north? Because if the ridge parks west here and we get that northwest flow across Minnesota, across the Red River Valley, into Iowa, Wisconsin, it will storm in this area. But the models right now going out to week 2 are not seeing it. I'll make a quick comment about week 2 model forecasts. The current wet forecast was picked up 2 weeks ago. They did a good job with this. So we'll watch this carefully to see how this evolves. A couple of things to pay attention to. We do have a 40% chance of a wave that just came off of Africa early this morning to develop over the next 5 days. I'll watch it. I'll report back to you, okay? Because this is going to be moving here toward the Lesser Antilles. It's going to take a while. The environment in the Caribbean is not favorable at this point, but we still need to watch this. And we also need to watch a system that's over by Japan. There's a tropical cyclone here. And if it does end up coming up over the next 10 to 15 days and getting into the Aleutian Islands, that could disrupt that triple ridge pattern that I talked about. I will watch it carefully to see if that shifts as well. From there, a quick discussion about temperatures. The extreme heat that we saw today here in the southern and central plains is replaced by Friday into Saturday. See the cooler weather coming in? And while that happens in the ridge builds in the northwest, here's the record-setting heat on Sunday, getting into Monday and Tuesday of next week. We're talking about temperatures before the heat index is included of 110 plus in this area. And that could break all-time records for parts of Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and British Columbia. And it sticks around because the omega pattern is blocked up. And that's why the day 5 through 10 time period, let's shrink this up a little bit, there we go, is still showing out there temperatures anywhere between 10 to over 20 degrees above average. While we're cooler in the high plains, cooler in the south compared to normal. So it'll still be warm, but cooler than normal. And this pattern tends to get kind of stuck as we look all the way out now to about the 4th of July here. Continuing into that first week, this is what the models are suggesting the temperature pattern will look like. Now, I just encourage you to go watch my more extended video. I will talk about why the July precipitation outlook looks like this, what's going on in the plains and the prairie, why is it so wet in this area, and we'll also take another kind of deep dive into these temperature patterns with the heat in the west and stuck here along the 49th parallel, but why is it cooler to the south? So check out the end of that extended video to get a bit more there, okay? Appreciate your attention. Have a good rest of your week and weekend, and I'll talk to you next week. Thank you.